This is Latin Times El Cafe, and today we have a really good guest. We have Enrique Castillo from Blood In and Blood Out.
Yeah,
If you remember him from back then, yeah, and Weeds, the HBO series Weeds, Mi Familia, etc. He's working on a project right now. We're going to talk about called Ruben Salazar Project and a mariachi document. So we're going to get on right now with Enrique Castillo.
But before we get on, let's go through some of the things he's done.
Yeah. So he's been in Blood In, Blood Out, Weeds, Mi Familia, and he's currently working on the Ruben Salazar project and a mariachi documentary.
Yes.
Which the Ruben Salazar, August 29th of this year will mark the 50th anniversary of the Chicano moratorium and the date that Ruben Salazar was shot and killed. So we're going to let him expound on that. And so you guys can be aware of that and also get to know Enrique Castillo. He's a wonderful guy.
And we'll be right back with that.
Be right back.
I'm good. The weather's good out here, nice and warm.
Yeah.
Wow. Where are you at?
We're very warm right here.
I'm in an unincorporated part of Los Angeles called Valinda.
Oh, okay.
It's a very small community. We don't have sidewalks. It's zoned for animals, so people have horses.
Oh, nice.
Lots of roosters.
You got some chickens and roosters and horses and all that?
We don't, but people around us do.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, we're in the country too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I like it. I like it better than the city just about now, especially.
Yeah.
We're a little bit we're north of Tampa in Florida.
Okay. Yeah. I was in Florida probably about a month before this whole thing happened with the virus.
Yeah.
We were in Miami.
Wow.
We went to shoot some Los Mariachi Cobre over at Disney World.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
Nice. So you're familiar with Florida over here in the
I've been in and out, mostly, just passing through.
Oh, that's cool. So how you holding up over there with all this going on?
Well, we're good. This is about around day 110 of staying in.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And we usually just go out for our usual morning walk. Although it's outside and there's nobody around, we still take our mask.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody comes around, everybody's pretty cool about it. We give each other a space.
Yeah, our 6 feet.
Yeah, even more so.
Make it 7 or 8.
12 is good.
That's true.
So either that and the other thing is, the market.
Yeah.
So my wife goes a lot more than I do.
To the market?
Yeah.
So how many series have you watched so far?
Series, not a lot, but a lot of films and documentaries.
Wow.
And then I had a whole library of films. I love classic films, so I rewatched some of those.
Yeah.
Done a lot of reading, a lot of writing.
Oh, that's good.
So projects that we're trying to line up.
Yeah.
I just finished a treatment for one project. I just sent it off. I finished a Western script.
Nice.
And just before this thing hit, I was supposed to travel to shoot something in San Antonio. But here we are.
Yeah.
I lived there for 3 years in San Antonio.
Nice town. I like it there.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to heading back, but gonna have to wait.
Yeah. I know.
We're all in the same boat.
So tell us about your family, where your family's from, where you were born, and everything.
I was born and raised in Imperial Valley, which is the southernmost valley in California, between San Diego and the Arizona border. And I was born and raised in a town called Calexico, which means it's a combination of California and Mexico, Calexico.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the city across the border, because it's a border town, is Mexicali.
See.
Yeah, so I have family across the border, but we were raised in Calexico, and we were a family of farm workers. So I worked in the fields with my father from, as far back as I can remember to my sophomore year in college.
Wow.
Yeah, so weekends and holidays and summer vacations pretty much were spent working in the fields.
Wow.
So yes, I'm very familiar with where the food comes from.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
And hard work too.
And yes.
Extremely. In that time, it was there were no bathrooms out in the fields. There weren't any breaks. Sometimes we worked peacetime, so depending on how much we produced. Other times, there were very few times where I worked by the hour.
Right.
And my father came from Mexico, from Jalisco, and he came when he was very young. He crossed legally. He paid 10 cents to get across.
Wow.
Eventually became a citizen, but he apprenticed with a very renowned commercial painter in Guadalajara. He learned how to mix colors from scratch and all that, and they painted a lot of the government buildings. So that was his profession. And when he came to the U.S., he came complete with his air compressor, with his airless gun, his painting suit with a regulator, and he couldn't find any work.
Yeah.
And then a friend of his, after a while, told him, "You're not going to be able to get that kind of work here because that's for gringos."
Yeah.
So that was his introduction to prejudice, not directly but indirectly. So his friend told him, "If you want to make some money, I have a job working out in the field." So he joined him, and eventually because of his ability to distinguish colors, he was able to gauge when the produce was going to be ready to harvest. So he became one of the sought-after employees with the growers. So he taught us, my brother and I, how to gauge the produce when it was green, when it was about to get ready, when it was ripe or overripe. And so during the summers, they would send us or him, and we had to go as a family north ahead of everybody else so that he could gauge when the crops were going to be ready to harvest. In particular, we spent a lot of times harvesting cantaloupes.
Wow.
Working in the packing sheds. And because we could tell the different grades of color in the produce, we were the sought after family to hire.
Wow.
But he was kind of a chauvinist in a way. You know, he didn't like women in his crews. He felt that for one reason was that the guys were going to flirt with the girls.
Get distracted.
Also that the girls, for example, when we were working in the cantaloupes, there was only one time when he was stuck with a crew that included women in one of the packing sheds, because it was not a usual shed that we went to work in. Wow. So there was a crew already there that he had to take on. And there were several women in the crew. And I had never seen him so frustrated. Because he would get upset because some of the women would grab a cantaloupe with two hands, whereas we were expected to grab
2 cantaloupes.
And when the produce is on a conveyor belt at full speed, it gets very, very difficult. And my brother was in charge of the conveyor belts.
Yeah.
And over and over and over at the top of his lungs, he would scream, I never heard my brother's name scream so many times. So we did that. We cut grapes. We gathered figs, nuts, tomato, carrots, you name it. So we did it. That was my introduction to hard work and perseverance. And also something he always mentioned to us was if you're working, at that time we were still using short-handled hose. And also when we worked in the asparagus, we had to bend over and carry strapped onto our hip a cut-off 5-gallon can, metal can.
Wow.
Where you had to cut the asparagus and then you had to grab a handful and then put them in that can. And you couldn't unload that can until it was absolutely full.
Wow.
We spent a lot of time with an indention of the belt across our waist.
Wow.
I bet.
And 5 gallons is a lot.
But the one thing he always said was, when you bend down, don't get up, because it's going to be twice as hard to bend back down. So that was a very profound enlightenment that I learned from him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess it would be equivalent to put your nose to the grindstone.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'd say so.
Don't give up.
Yeah. And I guess, it prepared you for life and anything it's going to throw at you, because you've gone through that kind of stuff. It's tough. It's toughened you.
It's it definitely is. It's hard work now. Even before, when you consider that even up into the late 1960s, probably the average lifespan of a farm worker was 45 years old.
Yeah. Because
the work is so grueling, and you're out there exposed to all the elements.
Yeah.
And, it really toughens you up internally and externally. So yes, now, air conditioning, and a lot of them own their own cars. They travel to the fields in cars. We used to travel in a truck that my father had that had no air conditioning, and would get full of dust when you were out in the fields. Like I said, no restrooms. You have to pile up a bunch of rocks, or go into a deep irrigation canal and get as much privacy as you could there.
There you go. Yeah.
Which is another reason why there weren't any women in his crews.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too nice. I mean, that's not something I would deliberately do.
Not a lot of privacy.
No.
But yes, comparatively speaking, what I do now, sit at my desk and write, or go on a set and, get paid for sitting around, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I have complete respect. I do anything I can to help with the farm workers, as you can see by what's on the wall here.
Yes.
It was a gift from Artie at the UFW. So whatever I can do to help farm workers, I'm there.
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us about the current project you're working on, the Ruben Salazar project.
You heard about that one, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
And the Mariachi document.
Can't say too much because I'm in an NDA on that.
Oh, I got you.
But it's it's an LA story, so it's very apropos to the situation, and considering what from what is now in the public domain, a lot of his information and how he met his end. But I was fortunate enough that I was involved with a theater company downtown, the Latino Theater Company.
Mm-hmm.
I helped establish that, and we wrote a production, a full-length play called August 29. And the central character was a female going for her PhD, and she was writing a book about Ruben Salazar. And I played Ruben in the production. I was the male lead. And while we were doing our research, we were fortunate that his wife, Sally, was still alive.
Mm.
And we got in touch with her through her daughter, Lisa. And they graciously granted us an interview, and we spent a couple of hours or more just really getting familiar with his personal life. And what was obviously interesting was that his life, when he went to work and when he hung around with his buddies in LA, it was a completely different experience than he lived in Orange County at his home, and his many Anglo friends that he had there hosting pool parties. And his kids were not taught Spanish.
Yeah.
His mother had a lot of influence on him. She was very anglicized and wanted him to steer his life in that direction. His father was dark-skinned, very Mexicano, so he loved mariachis.
Yeah.
So Ruben lived a life of that were completely at odds with each other, but in a sense really helped him center himself as far as being objective to both sides, which opened him up also for criticism from both sides.
Yeah.
He was either a left-leaning communist by the way he wrote, or he was a tío taco. And he had to survive and try to present a balanced perspective to both experiences, but primarily to the Latino community, because he was the only Latino journalist at any paper that he ever went to and could speak Spanish. And so naturally, he was always given those assignments. While he excelled at it and the quality of his work was world class, he still wanted to be able to write about world issues that didn't include Latinos. He wanted to go to Vietnam, but an Anglo was sent there ahead of him.
Mm.
And then he was sent to be the news director in Mexico City when El Golpe happened there, the Amanecer at Tlatelolco. He was in the Dominican Republic because he could understand and write Spanish. So wherever it needed a Spanish language journalist, they sent him because he was the only one they had. Wow. And of course, when he spoke with the Latino community, he learned more and more the difficulties that the community was going through, because a lot of the papers never used to publicize in-depth articles about the struggle of the Latino community.
Right.
And because at first he didn't find that as maybe glamorous as reporting about Vietnam or other world issues, little by little, after he came from Mexico City, he was assigned to the Latino community. Mm. And the more and more he got involved, he began to write more about the issues from a much more in-depth perspective. and much more sympathetic, to the tune where he eventually got in conflict with the establishment, both the sheriff's department, law enforcement in general. They already had a file of his at the FBI. He was already being monitored. He's already being monitored by the DEA.
Yeah.
Particularly because of his perspective during the Vietnam War when he went there to write. And then with his writings in Mexico City. Mexican government there wasn't pleased with how he was portraying the actual incident at Tlatelolco and other issues. So he became a target,
yes,
to the establishment and law enforcement in particular, where he had direct confrontations with the chief of police, Ed Davis, threatened him. They sent. He aired when he became the news director at KMEX. And this is all again public knowledge, in the public domain. He aired a report with survivors of a shooting that happened in Santa Ana. Two cousins were killed by the police because they responded to an incident of a domestic dispute. They went to the wrong apartment and they busted in with shotguns, and there were undocumented in there. Two of them were cousins. They were the Sanchez cousins, and they murdered both of them.
Oh my
God! They didn't understand English, and the cops didn't speak Spanish, and so they killed them. And Ruben, they interviewed the survivors, and when it aired, it became a huge issue with the Latino community. A lot of protests, and they accused them of murder. And shortly thereafter, two plainclothes detectives went to see Ruben at the television station, KMEX, basically told him that the Latino community was not sophisticated enough to understand, and that it could be very dangerous. So tongue-in-cheek threat. And they left, and Ruben, being a journalist devoted to his craft and seeing a newsworthy article here, he wrote in his column at the LA Times, which he continued even when he went to be news director at KMEX. He actually wrote about that incident, in effect calling out the police, saying these guys came and threatened me for doing my job. And not long after that is when the moratorium happened, and he was killed by law enforcement. And it was determined that it was a homicide, but the hearing officer, Pitlock was his name. You've seen Requiem 29, the documentary of the inquest. It was slanted more towards trying to indict the community instead of looking into the cause of death and determining that it merited a trial to find out, who was guilty of the homicide, because the inquest did determine that it was a homicide. So the hearing officer determined that there wasn't enough evidence, and he refused to have a trial, to file charges. So, a lot of the information that Sally, his wife, Ruben's wife, was able to communicate with us is in my files, and so I'll be able to draw on that. And I've been in contact over the years with his daughter Lisa. He had 3 children. Lisa was the oldest, Stephanie, and John was the youngest. But I specifically had one question for Sally that kind of caused her to really, maybe she hadn't thought about it, but she gave me her perspective what her take was on how he met his end. But there was one other issue that kept coming up, which was, well, Ruben hung out with a bunch of white people, and he was accused of being a tío taco and all this stuff. And then he was with the Mexicanos, and he loved mariachis and drank tequila and whatnot. And we interviewed his drinking buddies, and there's a lot of stuff that we learned about Ruben's personal conduct when he wasn't with his wife and the Anglos. So obviously, she wasn't aware of that stuff. And so I asked her, I said, would you grant me that your husband had a life completely different from the life that he lived with you and your children in Orange County?
Yeah.
And she took a long time. She took a lot of deep breaths, and then she took a sigh, and then she said, yes, I'll give you that. And that kind of opened the door for us to explore and be able to present Ruben in a very human perspective, rather than portray him as most people portray him as, well, he died for the cause and he's been murdered, and which to me is perfectly okay. I think he deserves that recognition. But to tell the real story of this human being, because that's what he was. He was a guy that had feelings. He had dreams, he had aspirations. He had prejudices. He had a lot of things that, he was resentful of his employers. He could have easily been, pushed. If he was pushed a little farther, who knows? Could he have ended up being a disgruntled employee because he was discriminated against?
True.
Sure.
So that's my approach to how I want to tell the story.
Sure.
And hopefully it'll go well, which is what I try to do in most of the stuff that I write.
Yeah.
A lot of the material that I've written, I've not shared with a lot of people because I've never wanted to entrust it to the Hollywood machine.
Yeah.
Sure. And so I've been hoping and praying that, less praying than hoping, really. I don't put much stock in that, except for, you kind of put your nose to the grindstone like is for our community to be eventually in a position where many of these stories can be greenlit, and we do them the way we see them, the way we know them. That we don't sugarcoat them and downgrade them to a lot of the stuff we've seen. I saw the story of Guy Gabaldon recently. They did in the 50s, I think. A Latino war hero played by Jeffrey Hunter.
Yeah.
A 5'6" guy played by a 6'2" guy with blue eyes. and so many, Pancho Villa and all this stuff that has never either been done right or has always been dismissed. We have so much material to draw from.
Sure.
And in order to do it right, we can't entrust it to the powers that be at this time. Many times we've had pitch meetings or whatnot. I'll tell you one interesting story. Guillermo del Toro, right? He's an Oscar-winning director, tells the story about a pitch that he went to do. And he's Mexicano, speaks good English, but with an accent. So he says that he's pitching the story, and they just love the story. And then they ask him, well, who's going to direct it? And he's like, totally like blown away. He says, well, me. And they said to him, but you have an accent.
That's true.
About that. Even what we do Goldberg tells a story about wanting to do the story of Rosa Parks, and they wanted a woman to play her, and Whoopi kept saying she's black. It's just that the concept of the closer you get to the truth, they don't grasp the concept. It's always, well, the best actor got hired for the job.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Lee J. Cobb or Yul Brynner as Pancho Villa.
Yeah, I was going to say
Best
that.
actor for the job.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp at least had the insight that when he was pitched to do Pancho Villa, he responded, well, you don't want some honky from Kentucky playing.
Yeah, there you go. That's not going to work.
Make it as realistic as possible, please, right?
Well, at least get closer,
Yeah, a lot closer. And there's so many talented actors that could have been chosen that match the blood, the blood.
And also just the idea of building bankable personalities.
Sure.
You see very often throughout film where an untested actor, an inexperienced actor is put in a role, and then based on that role, then they give him another role or her another role and another role, and pretty soon you have a successful bankable personality.
Right.
But when it comes to people of color, you are in a low budget film, and even though you're playing a major role in it, the promotion for it is not there.
Right.
And consequently, your project is still being measured against a multi-million-dollar budget film from Hollywood, and there's no forgiveness. There's no, we're going to consider you because you didn't have that much money. No, it's either you cut the mustard or you don't. And how many low-budget films have really surfaced to where they've won a Best Picture Oscar?
Sure.
Or at least made a killing at the box office.
Yeah. It's a long way to catch up with those kind of budgets.
So many times you're set up for failure. Industry knows, for example, one of my favorite questions to people when we attend conferences or whatnot, and we talk about why Latino movies or other films don't become successful. Why don't Latino actors? Why aren't they able to become successful, bigger stars? And you ask the question is, well, why do people go to the movies?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you get the typical answers. Well, escapism. People want to see heroes. It's entertainment. It's da 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 da. And my thing is, the only reason that people want to go to the movies is because the studios tell them to go.
Right.
Which is called advertising. So if you have a low budget movie and you don't have at least as much money that you put out or more for promotions, nobody's going to know it's there.
Right.
That's true.
And so the studios promote to tell you have to go see this movie. Otherwise, if they didn't promote it, you wouldn't know it's at the theater.
Right. And the same thing happens with television.
Exactly.
With series that have Latino actors and actresses in it, there's not the same amount of promotion for those shows and support system for those shows.
Correct. And so
then we end up not knowing about them. And so,
And consequently also is we as a culture that have contributed so much to the building and the maintenance and maintaining of the industry, we don't have a support system for each other.
Yes.
Like the studios.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a microcosm of our entire society that hires every conceivable aspect of the rest of society, whether it's lawyers, whether it's accountants, whether it's architects, whether it's labor, construction, medical, you name it, electricians, firemen, everybody maintains those studios, and it's a lot of people of color that do it. Now, granted, they started building it. They created it very much like the real estate industry. With their financing, they hired the people, they hired an architect, which is your screenwriter. They hired the rest of the people. Okay, build me my house. Now they've got their house that we all helped to build, and they're the only ones that are going to live in it because that's who started it. So now, what shall we learn from it and say, do we say, let us live in your house and live according to your rules? Or do we build our own house and live according to our rules?
There you go.
Decorate it how we want. And so naturally, it's financing that is going to have to go hand in hand. And the way to gain financing, of course, is that many of the investors that are Latino that you go to, we've all been nurtured by the film industry to have certain expectations from the audience and their expectations of what they're going to see.
Yes.
Oh, it has to have this in it. It has to have that in it. And so some independent producers kind of parrot what the industry tells everybody else. Well, we have to have better screenplays. We have to write it this way. We have to hire these people. So we end up parroting the same things and saying things like, well, the camera has to like you. Really? You can't have an accent. And how do you explain Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Russell Crowe? All these people with accents playing whatever, and yet when it comes to us, I don't have a particularly thick Mexican accent, so why couldn't I be Gladiator?
There you go. Right. There you go.
That's so true.
Because we look better.
The rules don't apply to them, but they definitely apply to us. So again, we have to support our own.
Yes, we do.
Can't be that judgmental because a low-budget movie doesn't look like E.T.
Right.
You know?
Right.
They're always trying to the Oscars.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's the stories too, that we're telling.
Yes.
Those are important to be told.
Absolutely. And so many that they still redo.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Yeah, I would love to see a Pancho Villa movie with the real,
or
someone who's actually Latino.
Yeah. And part black at that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, about that.
There you go.
For sure.
So yes, that's pretty much where I function, the work that I want to do. I've told stories about Latino Medal of Honor recipients that go back to the Civil War that most people don't even know. Our history goes back to the American Revolution. I have a script about that, a true story that I've not shared with many people. I have a story about Civil War heroes, Medal of Honor recipient that's based on a true story. And I find more and more that I want to tell, and I've been waiting, as I said, for us to be in a position to be able to tell them right.
Sure. Yes. That makes sense.
Let's talk about some of the films you've been in, like Blood In, Blood Out, in the series Weeds, Mi Familia, and any other movies that you have been in.
All outstanding projects. I've often been asked which one is my favorite, and honestly, I always have to say that it's El Norte.
El Norte.
Ah, yes.
Which is it's my favorite. I mean that film was so groundbreaking, so profound, and so apropos even to today. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the restored version. We got to see the restored version at the Academy.
Wow.
And it is absolutely gorgeous.
Okay.
And the storyline, that script is told in 3 languages: Indigenous, Spanish, and English.
Wow.
And actors that were multilingual. It was a multi-ethnic cast. There were no stars in it. And the writing team of Gregory Nava and Ana Thomas were insightful enough to bring on board people who knew better than them.
Yes.
In terms of the indigenous culture, the music, and everywhere along the way, they were extremely collaborative. Gregory, as a director, my experience with him has always been one of complete trust from both sides. He's trusted me with El Norte. He trusted me in Mi Familia, and he trusted me in American Family, the PBS series. And we've always worked very well together. His trust in me goes to allowing me to be able to adjust scenes in terms of dialogue. In El Norte, David Villalpando, who played the male lead, we shot the scene, a croissant scene. It's got kind of a pathos in there. And we shot at the Prince's Restaurant in Century City, and it had an upper level. And while we were shooting, Gregory said, "Here, you guys know more about this than I do. Go upstairs and fix this thing." And so David and I went upstairs, and then we just had a great time working the scene. And we came back down and we ran it for Gregory, and we were all just totally thrilled. All of us, everybody was like in stitches with some of the dialogue and understood the other thing about undocumented. It turned out to be, one of my favorite scenes. But the entire project is just, I always go back to that one as being my favorite.
Awesome. So what is here's a very important question. What is your favorite Latino food?
Latino food?
Yes, sir.
Is there a multiple choice with all?
Yeah, you can throw.
Well, yeah, we would expect multiple.
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite Latino food, pizza.
So we did create pizza.
No. If you had to pin me down, I've always said, to people too, is like, if I were marooned on an island somewhere, what food would I want to have with me? I'd say frijoles.
Hey, there you go. That's really good.
But it's interesting because, Chile, we love Chile, man,
Yeah.
And we put Chile on everything. And my wife makes it. And my experience with when she roasts the Chile, I wrote some dialogue into the Western that I wrote. And one of the characters is describing the food that he wants to give this little boy.
Wow.
He's mute and he doesn't understand Spanish. So he tells him in English, and he tells him, Jesucita, she's the real miracle worker because she's the one that makes the most important part of the meal, the chile. And he says, let me tell you, watch out, because when she starts roasting that chile,
look out.
You've never coughed and shed so many tears in your life. And then it's so hot that when you eat it, you can feel your beard grow.
Oh my gosh, that's the best. That's
yeah.
the best.
So my wife makes chile that I compare to, I guess it would be the equivalent of consuming battery acid.
Wow.
Wow.
That's how.
That sounds dangerous.
It's hot.
But it's good.
Yeah. So tell us about any funny moments that occurred while in a film that you can remember. One of your funniest moments while filming that happened.
Funny moments, man. I can't find experiences though. There was, I've always felt when I've worked on a play, for example, and when you start rehearsing, it's you sit down for the table read, and that first day is like the first day of school. And you get your pencil, you get your eraser, you get your highlighter, you get everything ready. Then you go through, and everybody then kind of mingles, and you talk, and you meet each other, and you start building relationships and whatnot. And then you get into the work, And when you start getting into the work, you make a lot of mistakes. And when you make mistakes, it's real people involved in these very unique situations that is only apropos to people in the arts. And then that stage actors in particular, that I'm sure comedy troupes go through the same thing, but when you start working on the play, you flub your lines, you go to the wrong mark, and you do all these weird things that sometimes is very humorous. You fall off the stage.
Oh my!
Wow! Wow!
Yeah, it's really funny. And then, even though certain things happen when you're already into performance, you've got your characters down and whatnot, and sometimes you'll go up on your lines, and with the old man, you have to tap dance to get back on line. But by that point, it's like you're doing almost the same thing every performance, over and over, day in and day out, for at least 4 weeks, let's say, if the typical production. So you begin to cure your character of the neuroses that you created for him when you were building him.
Yeah.
And so all of that exciting, beautiful human interaction, insecurity, moments of elation, all of that life experience, the audience never sees.
Right.
And that, to me, is the beautiful part of the work.
Wow.
And the audience never gets to see that.
Yeah, those behind the scenes stuff.
And if we could film that and kind of condense it into like a highlights thing.
Right, moments.
Yeah.
Moments. I think it could be very entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People are very interested in behind the scenes of the making of a film.
Uh-huh.
But you rarely see it with stage productions.
Yeah.
True. That's true.
So yeah, one of my favorite moments in acting with another actor is when the other actor, either you or the other actor, goes up on their lines, and the look on the face. It's priceless. It's priceless.
That's funny.
I had a moment, I was doing a play, and I had a monologue, and all the actors were behind me in different spots on the stage. And it was just me in front of the audience doing this monologue, and I went up on my lines.
Oh, wow.
And it looked, to me, it seemed like it went on for 20 minutes or so.
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
And I just sat there retracing, how the hell did I start this thing? And then afterwards, I talked to the other actors, And of course, when you do it so many times, some of them already know your dialogue.
Yeah.
Because in particular, they have to know their cue.
Right.
And so the other actors were saying, "Oh man, we wanted to say it so much. We wanted to give you the clue." So yeah, that when you look back, it's like, man, that was funny.
Wow.
And we went. I did a production where we took it on tour. And you know how conscientious we are about safety, and you cover you duct tape all the cables, and you patch up anything, you wipe the floor, you put glow tape, you put everything safe for you and the audience.
Right.
So we go to this theater somewhere in the Midwest, and the stage had all of these holes in the wood in the stage.
Oh my gosh!
And none of the cables were taped down, and so we had to bring it to their attention and whatnot, and so they started taking care of it. And then all of a sudden, we're getting ready to start rehearsing, and we hear this whir sound, this high whirring sound. And these two guys come in with leaf blowers. And they're blowing all the seats.
Oh my God.
Leaf blowers, you know how loud they are. They blow everything all over the place.
That's hilarious.
Wow.
So then we get to where, and it was a big theater. It was like 2,000 seats.
Oh my gosh.
So we finally start the rehearsal process, and okay, to throw on the lights, and they throw on the lights, and about 3 or 4 seats in the audience, because the frame on the bottom is metal. All of a sudden, they started arcing sparks. They throwing sparks up in electrical, shorting out.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, wow, what an invention!
Wow. People start freaking out.
We were like, "Oh my gosh!" So wow. we had them bring in a fire marshal, electrician.
Oh,
it's like, we can't, we just can't do this.
So who in your life has always been your hero and inspiration?
I have kind of a, I would not say a phobia, but I really try to discourage people from putting so much emphasis in others to the point where you end up mimicking, or you end up kind of, in Spanish, you would say, te entregas demasiado.
Sí.
You kind of give up something of yourself that you may have made a choice on your own, but because you want to emulate someone, you end up kind of like killing that thing within you.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, and the more people you do that with, then you end up being almost somebody else rather than organically yourself.
Right.
But that's not to say that I don't admire other people, and to different degrees, where you would say the greatest actor of all time, Sir Laurence Olivier, but I never saw Laurence Olivier play a Latino.
Yeah, that's true.
And do it convincingly enough for me to say, wow, man, do I have a lot of work to do to play a Latino? Or for that matter,
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I saw Marlon Brando as Zapata, and while he is masterful in front of a camera and internalize a lot of the inner dialogue of a human being Zapata, he didn't convince me that he was a Latino. So, you know,
Sure.
I admire the work and I envy the work. But to say I want to be like that person is, to me, surrendering so much of oneself that you end up kind of, you know, in the end trying to search for yourself, and then in the end where you really find it, and you begin to really try to convey who you are in essence, you end up either you can't speak Spanish well because you try to give it up to try to fit in. Or you can't emote the way you would have been able to if you have heard mariachis and you were really, you know, se te para el cuello. You know, when you start hearing mariachi, I still get goosebumps just talking about it.
Me too. I love mariachis.
But in a sense, that's what the industry has kind of done to us, is that we've been expected to abandon our culture and what we are in order to go along, to get along.
Yes.
That then when Latinos in the industry have tried to do Latino projects because all of a sudden they're newborn Latinos, the soul, el alma le falta.
Yeah, it's true.
Projects.
Yeah.
Because it's done from a assimilated perspective rather than a real, true understanding with a passion of it.
Yes.
Le falta el corazón.
Yeah. It's just like comida latina. If you Latino, you know, you got to put that sazon or whatever, the chile, you know, and
go to Taco Bell.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same. You could get the imitation or
Taco Bell might taste good, but it ain't the real thing.
Absolutely.
I'd rather go to a food truck, you know, where a mom is cooking in the food truck. She's making some good tacos with some good guacamole, all of that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Good menudo.
you are you know, Luis Valdez, whom I collaborated with a lot too, has always told that story about, you know, the sandwich and the taco, which we all know. But getting back to your point about who do I look to? Who do I admire? I kind of also take the position of George C. Scott or Marlon Brando, who George C. Scott in particular, who refused to accept his Oscar because he understood, how can you pick one person over another? It's like, how do you pick one culture over another? That's, I think, the wrong direction that we've been led into trying to somehow put ourselves at a higher rung than someone else, and then someone else is to as the character said in Salt of the Earth.
Yeah.
Whose neck do I step on in order to feel superior? And sometimes when you start emulating or start admiring or start creating icons for yourself, and then you build yourself up to that level,
yeah,
it can really mess with your mind, and you end up being the president of the United States, you know, thinking that you are the end all. So you end up with little things like, well, why did they call me to the set right now? I'm not doing anything. Well, why is my wardrobe not here?
Yeah. Where's my café con leche?
Why does my trailer doesn't it have an air conditioner? Why didn't you call me on the set? And then you get there, why did you call me too early?
Wow.
So you get into those positions of thinking you're the end all of everything, whereas we are all extremely important on a set. Right. Extremely. Right. And if you don't treat everybody with respect, then you don't deserve any.
That's right.
First of all, which is what I do impart to young people that are ask me, what advice do you give me about getting into the industry?
Yes.
Is the one thing you have to remember is it's your choice. And you have a choice after that.
That's right.
You're either going to enjoy it or you're going to be miserable.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you can't be happy without being a star with money, then you're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah. It's like it says, you faithful in the little, you'll be faithful in the much. But when you forget where you came from and you forget that people are all equal in the eyes of God.
Yeah, I've been on sets, and I have been early in my career also. You fall into that kind of stuff, but you try to catch it as much as you can. Hopefully, people that keep you humble.
Yeah.
But you go on set sometimes, and you see the behavior of your peers, and it makes me ashamed.
Yeah.
And apologetic sometimes to my collaborators, the wardrobe people, the makeup people, the wranglers if you're doing a Western, the extras, anybody who is helping to make you become more successful.
That's right.
Deserves this mutual respect.
Yes.
But I've seen clothes, wardrobe thrown all over the place.
Wow.
I've seen food dumped all over the place. People use profanity against other people. You hear about actors saying, the actors are told, well, don't look at that star and don't look at him in the eyes. And they've literally gotten fired because they inadvertently turned a corner and were staring straight at this person, and they got fired.
Wow.
So where does all that come from?
If that was me getting fired, I'd say, I didn't like you anyway.
Exactly. But and you work. I shot an independent film in Texas in the middle of a heat wave in the summer.
Oy.
And they got me an air-conditioned motorhome. And at one point, it didn't work. And it was unbearable in there. So I just moseyed out of there and went inside where everybody else was shooting.
Yeah.
And then I didn't make a big deal of it, but one of the crew, I think makeup or whatever, went in there to do something, and they noticed it wasn't working. So they're the ones that took care of it. It wasn't because I, made a big deal out of it. I appreciated it, of course.
Yeah.
But we started shooting. We were shooting one scene where it was in a truck that was not air conditioned either. So it was hot, but I was inside the truck. It was shade.
Yeah.
But I obviously understood that while I've been in and out of air conditioning, sitting in the shade, taking breaks or whatnot, the crew has been outside all damn day.
Wow. And it's hot in Texas.
In those conditions.
Wow.
And yet people will mistreat them.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
So what's going on right now with the Black Lives Matter and others, the Me Too.
Yeah.
And now the entire structure being reevaluated, hopefully will make an impact on all of us.
Yes.
So that we don't fall into that hierarchical, kind of structure where only people that have enough, like Warren Buffett, can say, well, how is it that I pay less taxes than my secretary,
Right.
Someone that has so much money can say that.
I know. Yeah, that's true. So we're pretty much done with the interview. And thank you so much, Enrique. It's been enlightening, and it's been an honor to meet you. And we wanted to ask if it was okay if we could pray for you, because we're also, one of our hats is we're ministers as well.
Yes.
And we like to pray for people.
Good.
And if that's okay, we could say a quick prayer, and
the world could use more of that.
Yes. But, we're really looking forward to seeing the documentary about Ruben Salazar, which it's going to be in August, correct?
Well, there have been documentaries already.
Okay.
The last one I think was Man in the Middle.
Yes.
But this one I'm doing is a feature film.
Okay. So it's going to be a film about Ruben Salazar.
Correct.
And where is there going to be going to be a website that people can go to that we can share during that time?
Well, right now my position is as writer.
Okay.
Okay.
I was approached and commissioned to create the treatment for the film.
Okay.
So there are other personalities that will be calling the shots.
Okay. Well, we're excited. We're excited to see it.
But
yes. Well, that's awesome to meet the person behind it, and a wonderful, talented person as you as well. I love you as an actor. I've always have, know, and I'm glad that you guys are safe and healthy and in a good area.
You guys too. It's great to see you guys. You know.
You too. We gotta
count on us as friends over here.
We're planning to take some time and go to LA and visit all of you guys and that we know over there, and spend some time, some quality time. Yes.
I'll make my wife make you some chile.
Oh my gosh! I better, so I can sweat out.
I don't want any hair on my chest.
Yeah. I could do a barba. It's fine. I could grow a beard. That's cool. If I got to do it that way, that's fine.
I really appreciate the work that you guys do. It's very, very necessary.
Thank you. Anything we can do to help promote what you have, we're here. Brenda has all of our information. Anything you're doing, we'd like to keep up on and keep in contact as well.
Yeah, you guys should hook up with my wife with Latin Heat. You guys are familiar, right? You know Belle.
Yeah,
Latin Heat. We love that.
Yeah, Belle's my wife.
Wow,
that's amazing. Yeah, I learned about that. Wow, I've actually
I think
that's a magazine, right?
I think they've talked.
It's online.
Yeah.
And
I would love to connect with her.
Let's do it.
Collaborate something with her.
She also does the Trend Talk, which are online.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. We'll mention that to Brenda so that we can hook something up.
We all should work together. Definitely.
I love Brenda.
We're open to that.
I love Brenda, and to show you how much I love Brenda, my second favorite food, I guess, would be tamales.
Oh.
So my wife makes tamales, right? And Brenda came over and she helped make some tamales.
Ay, Dios mío.
Unfortunately, she was supposed to take some home, but she forgot and I ate them.
Wow.
You heard that, Brenda, right?
So my wife made some especially for Brenda.
Wow.
Just to show you how much I love Brenda, I didn't eat those tamales.
Oh.
Wow, that is love.
That's and
that's definitely love.
Yeah, Enrique, I want to share something with you. You have a beautiful heart, man. You have a
I appreciate that.
Yes. And God's gonna open a lot of good doors for you with all these things you're writing, and they're things that are from the heart, and that He's giving you too. And
we all got to do our part, support each other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And lay the groundwork for the next generation.
Yes. Yeah.
That's so important.
So they'll know the truth of everything.
Absolutely. So they don't have to feel like they need to ask for permission.
Yeah. Yeah, and they with the technology you have today, they can start their own thing, and and as the older Latinos who have the finances should back them to do all these things that need to be done. You know, I agree with you.
I'm very, very optimistic about their future. That's great time to be alive to see it happening.
That's right. That's right. Amen.
That's the truth.
Well, let's pray real quick, and after we get off, we can talk a little bit.
Okay.
Father God, we just come to you in the name of your Son Jesus Christ, and we just lift up Enrique. We lift up his beautiful wife and beautiful family. Lord, we pray always protection over their health, over their lives, over their children, over all their family, everything they have. Father, we pray for provision always and favor in all they do. Lord, let everything they touch be turned to gold. Wherever they have to go, Lord, keep them safe. Let your angels always surround them. Always be covered, that they be covered by you, by your hand. And Father, the tremendous work that they're doing, Lord, let it spread like wildfire, and that the eyes of our Latino community, our people, Lord, be open.
Yes.
And that we rise in truth, Lord, as always, because you're about truth, you're about love. And I thank you for my brother Enrique, because he has that truth and love in his heart, Lord, for the right thing. And bless him always. Bless him in health. Lord, touch his body, make him strong in all things, in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Enrique.
Appreciate it.